Well, here we are digging into not the newspapers, the online portals. The newspapers are still holidaying. Yes, they're still holidaying, but I guess befittingly so. It's been quite a year, hasn't it? So we'll focus on the news portals online and get some scoop from there. But we're joined by Volta Regional President, Ghana Institution of Surveyors, Maxwell Lukuto. Mr. Lukuto, a very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you doing? And good morning to your listeners and viewers.
I am doing well, and I hope you are too. Happy New Year.
Many happy returns.
Right.
2020 has not been too good to us, but we pray and hope, even though against all warnings from the IMF, that 2023 is going to be worse off. We just pray and hope that the God of Israel, the God of Ghana, would see us through this 2023, and we pray and hope that it will be better than we experienced in 2022.
Interesting angle you've started from, because I was about to go right down that alley. You are not a contractor, you're with the Institution of Surveyors, but at the tail end of the year, we heard of, if memory serves, some 800 or so million plus that had been doled out to contractors who were owed by the state. But when you look at the sector, the building sector in 2022 and the work that you do, why is it that you say it was not such a good year? Give us a breakdown.
On the contrary, I do construction as well, usually for the district assemblies.
Okay, I'm just saying that because usually surveyors are not necessarily contractors. So that was the angle I was coming from. So if you do it, that's okay. But give us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, the building industry hasn't been too good because usually it's out of the bountifulness of whatever happens around you. You have to feed, you have to be able to pay your kids' school fees, you have to be able to put body and soul together before necessarily thinking of where to lay your head. Of course, those are the basic necessities of life, but food is always at the top. Clothing comes next before housing and other facilities are thought of. And so if you don't have food, if you don't have clothing, if you can't pay your children's school fees, if you can't run around, how do you think about building? And you see, before you build, of course, then the land issues come in. And so to buy land may be considered as a luxury at the point. You need to get to the basics of life before thinking about whether to buy land and whether to build or not. And so, like you are rightly aware, things haven't been too good. The sector or the whole economy was plagued with a lot of uncertainties, and most people couldn't find their feet so well with what they do as a typical Ghanaian. And so the industry wasn't too good the way we expected it to be. Like you said, contractors were promised they were going to be paid, but as usual, there was no show. Generally, we know there's no money in the country. The country is broke.
Hold for me, Mr. Lukuto. If you say contractors were going to be paid, as the state said, but were not paid, what do you mean? Because the 800 million plus, if memory serves, was disbursed, wasn't it?
It was disbursed, but the question is how much were they owed? From time immemorial, we've been hearing about contractors being owed so much money. And so if you are paying them the 800 and whatever million, is that able to sort them out completely? I'm sure no. So that's my point in saying that. You see, and usually what happens in these things is that people take loans from banks and take other facilities as well to be able to execute these jobs. And once the bank, you know what happens at the banking sector and the economy in general. So the inflation rate and all those things that plague us. Before you take the money, maybe you have gone to take a loan of 500 million or something, and then out of government owing you maybe some 300 or 600, they come to pay you some 100 million or something. What's the deficit that is there and the challenges that come on their own? You realize that you are still worse off. And usually at the end of the day, before you are paid, whatever you get, you still send it to the bank. And you hear a lot of people dying, a lot of people selling their property to be able to pay off this debt and these loans. And it's not good for us. Seriously, it's not been too good in the year 2022. And so I'm not sure you see any contractors smiling and clapping for government for whatever they might have done. It's not been too good for us, seriously.
Well, between yesterday and today, we've been focusing on different areas. Yesterday, we were focusing on the economy of the country and business and what we can do moving forward as we get into an IMF program, supposing we get it at full scale. Today we're talking education, but I'd like to find out from you, from the angle of surveyors, construction, and all of that, if you could propose policy or any things to government, ideas, what would they be?
Seriously, like we saw yesterday, just for companies led by Sia Japan met the president with some Thai businessmen who are interested in growing our rice industry. The question is, have they gotten the land? I was trying to see where he's gotten the land, and I just heard that he has some pockets of land dotted all over the country. Of course, Gota region is the greatest grower of rice between, Sogakopa, the enclave. We have a lot of rice industry sited around here. They do the farming, they do the processing. And so the question is, has he secured the land, or he's now going to go through the hustle? Getting land in Ghana, it's a hell of time. You need to go through a lot of challenges to be able to get land. And so the question is, how is government helping people to secure their land? We have been fighting for some of these things to be done properly. Digitalization is one thing we have always been talking about. But the question is, has landowners been helped enough to be able to register and secure their land boundaries such that if an investor comes, it's a bingo. You just go in there and you have everything laid out. You know who to talk to, who to pay money to, so that before you pay the money or after you have paid, nobody, 2 or 3 more people wouldn't come saying that that particular land belongs to them, and the investors that would have come with their equipment with so much money in hand to farm, and there will be a lot of litigation over the land, and the people cannot farm and all those other things. For me, those are challenges that need to be seriously looked at. And once we are able to secure our land tenure system very, very well, and everything is just there for people to come, they come and they don't have a problem. A lot of the people come with money at hand, but they spend all this money on unnecessary litigation and fighting over the piece of land upon which the thing has to be built, or where the farm has to be cultivated. And at the end of the day, every investment that should have gone into equipment and other things, and getting the land tilled and seed to plant, goes into fighting litigation in the court, or if with the people at home and all those things. And at the end of the day, they take their investment and go back. So for me, I think that if government can look at this sector of the economy, that is the land management and tenure system, where we can be sure that land is secured for investors to just go in there and get and do their farming. It helps. So as a surveyor, I would employ government to take this digitalization process very seriously, where they can ensure that these things are done properly for people to come and just step on and do it. There have been a lot of land administration projects, but at the end of the day, we've not gotten the results that we are expecting from it. So much has been invested. Let us be very critical with some of these things and make sure that we get the best output we desire from these aspects of our life. Everything has to be done on the land. If it's going to be building, it has to be built on land. If it's going to be road, it has to be built on land. If it's going to be farming, it has to be done on the land. If it's going to be siting of industry, it has to be done on the land. So, like, the basis of everything is land. So if we get our land tenure system very right, we are sure that we are good to go.
Well, let's get to the online portals now and check out some stories making the news there. And in the first one I'd like us to look at, President Akufo-Addo has donated 100,000 Ghana cedis to what? The National Cathedral Secretariat for the continuation of the project. Now, speaking at the Bible reading marathon ongoing at the project site, the president, ongoing then, the president reiterated his conviction to build the cathedral, noting that it was not only his pledge, but an act of thanksgiving for God's mercies and grace on the country. First of all, what do you make of this National Cathedral project? And secondly, I'm sure you've heard that the allocation of 80 million Ghana cedis for the building or the continuation of the project was disallowed this year by members of parliament of that select committee. Reverend Dr. Joyce Ayi, in an interaction, said it wasn't the entire sum, just the seed money end of it. But what do you make of the project and the push to continue with it?
I am a Christian, a member of the Global Evangelical Church, and we believe in building a house of God. But usually you build a house of God when you have the ability to. In the Bible, you realize that David, Solomon, and all the rest, promised to build God something, and they did. I am not sure they had to squeeze their people to be able to build the house of the Lord, because God himself says he detests a house that is full of lies. And so for me, yes, it's a good thing our president has promised a personal pledge to God to build him a cathedral. Of course, coming to realize the enormity and the extent to which capital has to be invested in to be able to get this house of God out, he has decided to get all of us, all of us Ghanaians, because even the Muslims donated, all Christians are supposed to donate a CD or so each a month. And so we believe that out of the bountifulness of God's grace to us, we should be able to donate these things to build the house of God. But seriously, if you look at the situations in which we are in, I don't think this is the right time for us to be thinking of building that house. The history we have heard about the basilicas and all other ones, they are built over a long period of time. I don't know why our president thinks that his cathedral should be built within 4 years or within 8 years.
In fact, if you look at, sorry for the interruption, but if you look at the Cathedral of Notre Dame in France, which caught fire some years back, with the likes of Bernard Arnault and others contributing to refurbish it, you would notice that in some cases it took centuries to put up these edifices. Yeah. Centuries.
Yes. So I don't know why we as Ghanaians are pushing so hard to be able to build ours within 4 years. Of course, the space has been cleared. A lot of new built houses have been bulldozed down to make way for this to be done. People criticize that, but it's been done. The harm has already been caused. Mm-hmm. And so let's take our time and build this. We are always saying, some Ghanaians are always saying that the time is not right for us to commit more money into trying to build this house. Parliament has spoken, I'm sure. That's the voice of the generality of Ghanaians saying that we don't think that much money should be committed from the state coffers now towards the building of the cathedral. Of course, Nana Addo promised or made a personal pledge to build this house. So if he's contributing 100 million of his personal money...
So 100,000 Ghana cedis. 100,000 Ghana
cedis out of his own money. So it's his salary or whatever it is. I think it's good if that's his personal pledge, and we should just encourage him to go along that time yet. But I think that state money should not continually be committed to that now, and that we should sit down properly and plan how this is going to be done. Like the Bible said, who is this man who would want to build, will start and cannot end, and people will mock at him? Right. So let's plan. We want to agree that it should take us 10 years, 20 years. Let's plan it properly, and whatever we want to commit to it at the end of every year, at the beginning of every year, we agree on it and do it. It shouldn't be done in a rush. And if you look at the edifice, if you look at the design, it's not something we can rush and finish up with. And as we speak, with all that money, $339 or $340 million going into that, what have we seen? We can't see much. And so for me, let us take our time and make sure that we do this thing to glorify God. It's a good thing, but not at the crucial time of our economic meltdown, where the IMF has been proposed worse and high situation for all countries, including Ghana, in 2023. Let's be measured cautiously. We are not against the building of the cathedral. We are not anti-Christ, we are not anti-God, but we are only looking at our reality and the situation in which we are in. And the times that surround us now, and we are saying that we don't think this is the right time to do it. We are just being fair in our assessment. We are not against the president to build a befitting house of the Lord where all of us will go and worship. And if it's going to be a historic center, it's going to be a tourist center for Ghana to make money out of. But you don't invest if you can't feed yourself. And so for some of us, that is what we think it should be.
Interestingly, there's an outfit, I've just been looking for the name, which was putting up an edifice in that area, Waterstone Realty Luxury Apartments Complex. That was demolished, and they are also, there has been a legal twist to the matter because they are also seeking retribution in court. They are seeking a 120 million Ghana cedi judgment debt. So that is also in there, apart from other entities that had to be moved on the back of that. But anyway, let's get into this other story. At least some positives to look at. And we have fuel prices dropping by 8%, and some leading oil marketing companies have begun reducing prices of some petroleum products at the pumps. Market leader GOIL has announced more than 8% in reduction in fuel prices. So I was at the pump yesterday, and about 1 cedi had been taken off per liter, which is great, because when you're purchasing about 47 liters, then you know what that means in terms of the per liter charge. But the market leader had announced that it has slashed the price of diesel by 1 cedi 50 pesos to now sell at 14 cedis 60 per liter. On the other hand, petrol was now going for 12 cedis 40 pesos per liter. You look at other OMCs, Total Energies announcing a price reduction of its products, and other OMCs are also expected to follow suit on the back of competition. So looking at that, for you, a positive, right? Because fuel prices hit what? 15 cedis plus, 16 cedis plus, and diesel went as high as 24 cedis at a point.
Yeah.
At a point, some were even selling petrol for around 17 cedis and 18 cedis thereabouts. We've made quite some gains. Something to be celebrated, right?
Real one. I was also at the pump yesterday, and I even got some OMC to sell at, I think, 11 cedis 34 pesos. Some were selling at 11 cedis 99. Yes, of course, I saw GOIL 13 cedis and 15 cedis respectively for petrol and diesel.
So GOIL is now around 12 cedis 40 pesos, if memory serves.
Yeah.
Yes, 12 cedis 40 pesos. That's what I got it for yesterday.
Yeah, a lot of gain, basically because the rate in the dollar has dropped significantly, and the world market of crude has also dropped. And so, of course, those are the major determinants of the petroleum products. And so, if the world market, the cost has dropped, and then the dollar rate has also gone down, I'm sure those are the reasons why we are getting gains at the pumps. But we only hope and pray that situations don't change drastically like we experienced at the latter part of last year, where we couldn't even buy fuel for our cars and moved. And seriously, prior to the Christmas celebration, you move through Accra, and the normal Accra traffic you expect to see, you don't see it.
Right.
I guess all because people are not able to buy fuel to move their vehicles around, and people have to devise more clever ways of moving in town and doing business.
Right.
Most people resorted to online transactions and all that, and so we're not moving away much. And so once they drop, it's a good omen for us. It will impact largely on business and the transport fares. We only pray and hope that our transport unions will also respond positively. Usually what we see is that as soon as there's an increase, they increase immediately. But once there's a drop, they take their time to be able to reduce. And usually it is those of us who buy directly from the pump who get the benefits as soon as it is reduced. But the ordinary masses who bear much of the brunt don't get the full, the transportation fares reduced, and so still legal in the pain that they find themselves. And so it's my prayer that the transport unions will still keep up their drivers to make sure that there's a significant drop in the fares. If not, then nothing at the end of the day. And so that's my hope and prayer, that like they've been responding positively and quickly to the increase, they should also try to respond to the downward trend that we are experiencing now.
Right. Let's now talk about Saglemi, that project. And in recent times, we've been told that by the sector minister, Francis Asenso Boache, I think, that they are going to let go of that project, give it to private investors, that basically it's become something that is, maybe it's a Pyrrhic victory that has been won, because it is costing us more. It will cost us more as a state to refurbish the facility and make the most of it rather than give it to private investors. Well, the latest story, government masterminded looting of Saglemi, Saula Tuna Kalba MP. Let's get some details from that story. It's on myjoyonline.com. Now, the deputy ranking member on Parliament's Works and Housing Committee, Andrew Dari Chiwite, is alleging that the government masterminded the looting at the Saglemi housing project. According to him, The extent of looting witnessed at the housing project could not have been done by individuals from neighboring communities, but rather the work of an organized unit. Quoting him, he says, "You went to the site with us and you saw what happened. That was why that day at the project site, I was asking questions. I was asking those who happened to visit the project with us in 2017 and 2018. We saw the level of work there. We saw the quality of work that was done. But 2 weeks ago, when we went there, you saw what happened. As if the government planned, went to the project site with trucks, with boys for them to pick out the doors, louver blades, glass fittings. You were there with us. Look, 1,506 housing units. You saw it." It goes on and on. But I have a question. What do you make of the project? Each time I pass there, it's like a blot on our national conscience, a scar. The last time I went down that route was sometime in, I suppose, October or November, actually. I was going to some part of outside Ghana, actually, and I had to use that route. Each time I see it, it pains my heart. Not just that project, but other projects, even ones by Kufuor, former President Kufuor, which have not been. I just ask myself, how do we think as a country? First of all, they say affordable housing, which is not affordable for the layman, for the technocrat, for the person who is fresh out of school doing some work. That's what other systems in France and the others, they have. That's why people can build wealth. And then secondly, this bit about all these fittings were there and now they've been removed. I mean, these are state assets. How is that even possible? What's your reflection on that?
Ben, I'm right.
Yes, Benjamin.
I drove past the place just yesterday around 5 o'clock, and I felt like weeping. You are being charitable with the adjectives you are using to describe us as a nation. It's worse than you are using. We are just not a people of conscience. We are a people who don't think about what Ghana really is. I am finding it difficult to choose words to describe us as a people. About a year and a half or a year ago, Hassan Yarga mounted a spirited challenge to all of us as Ghanaians and was going to mobilize people to go and occupy the place by force. You quickly saw government machinery rose and threw a challenge back. I thought that was going to push us to do something for once in our lifetime, but it never happened. I drove past there just yesterday, and my heart bled. I stopped for about some 2 minutes and drove away. I said, "What is this? What we can use our national resource to do?"
Right.
And they will tell you they are doing audit, which they will never complete up to now. When that project was going on, workers from all over my constituency, Safton, Sugakope, the Flare, and all the environment, Kutame, they would be buzzed early morning to the project site, and when they finish in the evening, they would be buzzed back. And at the end of the day, they were taking salary, and their pocket was booming. Their economy was good. Their families were being taken care of. They were able to pay school fees. When the construction was going on, when you passed there, the number of people who work at the site, if for nothing at all, it's a good omen for the country. And if a president would think about this, and somebody will come and just run this project down the way it's been done, and now they are looking at selling it out to somebody, a private person, whoever that person is, nobody knows. But of course, with the kind of things we experience, this mood-changing government, you can expect nothing more than they wanted to give to their cronies. And for me, it's crazy. It's nauseating. It's so bad. And you can't imagine that we have a president, a minister of state, or a minister responsible for works and housing, and every day they are paying just lip service to this. They wouldn't come out with any concrete ideas to make sure that this thing, I don't want to use some words.
Season your words.
I am careful to choose my words because it's just so bad, my brother. It's just so bad. Look at the structure integrity of this building. Look at what is the and the number, the sheer number. It's about 1,600 housing units.
Right.
And we have people looking for housing to buy.
Exactly. Looking at our housing deficit in the country. I mean, I'm not sitting here,
Yes.
I'm not asking anyone to give me one of them. No, I'm not, I don't have personal interest. But there are people who may need those. It's not to say that I don't have any need, but there are people who may need those more than I do. People who may be commuting from very far places. I've worked in the Pram area before, so I know what it means to commute from very far into some enclaves of the country. Yet, these are there, and we simply, sometimes it just beats my imagination. Yesterday, when we hosted Stella Jima Labi, who was the 2022 National Best Teacher, she made mention of going to Dubai in the United Arab Emirates and how it really got her thinking about how desert land could be reclaimed and all of that. We know the story, Sheikh Maktoum and the rest. And you ask yourself, even the basics, the very basics, we can't get right. At what point will we get to the likes of Dubai and other places, Doha? When?
My brother, just like you are saying, like I started saying, getting land in Ghana, and especially within that enclave, it's hot. It's hot. I am a civilian. I know what I'm talking about. You go buy the land, and the challenges you go through alone is hell. That is drawing a lot of people away from thinking about building. And now government has been able to secure this land. I'm not sure there's any litigation over the piece of land, and build all this thing with hard-earned currency of ourselves. If we don't have people to even buy, let's give other people to go and occupy for free. At least these people are Ghanaians. Have we not seen free housing policies in other countries? So what are we doing to ourselves? And we are leaving this thing to rot. Might are just destroying this thing. What are we doing to ourselves? Yesterday we passed and realized that some of the roof members are even getting rotten away. Yes, of course, once you build and you don't occupy, a lot of the building structures fall apart. So whether these things fell apart or people intentionally went in and read them, or whether they were led by government or by some hooligans or whatever it is, nobody knows. But it is just because people are not occupying the space.
It also means it also means, as we wrap the conversation on this, that even if the assertions are untrue, it means that we've been lax in our security to the point where some nefarious characters have been emboldened and felt, oh, we can go in there and steal these, fittings and others, and there'll be nothing, no one to check us. And there's also this mentality, oh, the MPP did it, so when we come, maybe we are the NDC, we'll be very lax towards this project. Or the NDC did it, so when we come and we're the MPP, we'll be very lax to it. I want to speak to our leaders this morning. It is taxpayers' money, not your money. So at least protect it.
My point is that what is only left for us to be done there is to access the place with road network and water. Those are the only two things we have to send there. Can we think that ECG cannot? And there's already a transformer. There's a substation being sited just right in front of the project.
Indeed.
And how far is the project from the main road that we can't just join it up? Can't we extend water from that main road to the place and allow people to occupy these places and use them? The nurses are crying for houses. The soldiers are crying for houses. All the security services are crying for houses. And are we saying that we can't get these people to do these things right? Is it rocket science? What is it? And we are leaving these things to rot. And this is our hard-earned currency money. And now we are spending so much money to build a cathedral. Are we right up there? My brother, what are we doing to us?
I sense your disgust and your pain. You're sounding almost as though...
Because I am within the built industry. And I know how much it costs to put up a single room. And if we have all these things rotting away, it is so much pain to my heart. What are we doing to ourselves as a nation?
I feel your pain. And guess what? Because we were talking about the National Cathedral project earlier, how much have we pumped into that project as a state? 339 million Ghana cedis. 339 million Ghana cedis. Out of that, the amount paid directly to the Secretariat, the National Cathedral Secretariat, is 225 million Ghana cedis. And that paid to the consultant, Ajay and Associates, is 113 million Ghana cedis. Put that together, you get 339 million Ghana cedis. But here's the interesting part. As you spoke, it got me interested in this comment by one Voodoo, who comments on that post on My Joy Online. He says, 339 million. This could have built at least something when it comes to affordable housing. It could have set up a few large-scale rice farms so that we reduce rice imports. It could have helped to stabilize the cedi. But look at what our leaders are doing with the money. So I guess, again, priorities. He mistakenly puts that dollars, but it's actually cedis. And but there's a whole lot we could do with some of these. But I guess the thinking is different. Let's wrap the conversation by going to bbc.com. I want to focus on this story because it's of interest to our political infrastructure, Ghana, Nigeria. It focuses on Nigeria. Obasanjo draws ire for presidential polls endorsement. So Nigeria's former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, is at the center of a political storm after endorsing opposition presidential hopeful Peter Obi, or Peter Obi, like they would say, ahead of the general election due next month. In his endorsement, Mr. Obasanjo described Mr. Obi of the Labour Party as a mentee who had an edge over other candidates. We do recall that Obasanjo governed Nigeria between 1999 and 2007 as the flag bearer of the now main opposition PDP party. People have gone after him, especially as there are other contenders. Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is seen to be the front runner. He is with the governing APC, and Abubakar Atiku of the opposition that's the PDP. But here's why I find it interesting. This Peter Obi, at a point, was a governor in Nigeria, and he is known for a tough stance against anti-corruption. And he has a lot of money too. I mean, he's wealthy. At a point, there was a project within his state, and he realized that there was something fictitious going on, the sums that were being quoted to him. He goes on to purchase with his own money and donates it to his state. People didn't like that. He's come in there because he is somewhat young compared to the others, and he has that tough stance against corruption. When you look at our leadership in Ghana, how can we emulate this, especially in terms of young blood and in terms of those people with integrity? Because we've been told time and again, we'll fight corruption. Our president told us, the Anas principle. Now, the Anas principle, I don't know whether it can even be found. Your take as we wrap the conversation.
Yeah, of course. So, like, we have always, not all of us do, because if you look at the attitude of most Ghanaians towards corruption and politicians, you would want to think that some, I can't put a percentage to it though, but some are still in love with corruption. Some are in love with corrupt politicians because the youth especially, once you talk about corruption, somebody will jump in and compare to 2 years ago or 5 years ago or 6 years ago. I think that corruption 6 years ago was bad, and corruption a year ago or now should also be bad. And so these are the kind of people who should be directing to the leadership of the country, those that take a strong stand against corruption. And so for me, it's for somebody who is a mentee to Obasanjo and he's been the one who is pushing hard for him to come in, should tickle people's mind. And so for me, Peter, yes, I was in Nigeria and I went to his state, and the kind of things I heard he did, it's so marvelous.
Right.
He's the guy who is so tough and the one who makes sure things are done the way they should be done. And once he has his own money, he makes sure that he uses his own money to do a lot of the roads in Nigeria, in his state.
Right.
And it's so pleasing. These are the kind of people we should be expecting to go to the highest level of our leadership to make sure that things are done properly. Unlike what we see in Ghana today, we only pay lip service to corruption. We will eliminate it, we will eliminate this, and we go there, and we even embolden the people the more. Look at Kisi Ajabe talking about we not being ready to fight corruption in Ghana.
Right.
The whole special prosecutor.
Right.
If you could speak like that, it means that something is happening at the top. Because he's supposed to be supported, he's supposed to be given budgetary allocation. And once he doesn't get it, how does he do his investigation? He says there's so much up his sleeve for him to do, but because he's not been given the budgetary allocations, he cannot go ahead and do it.
Right.
So he says that we're just paying lip service to corruption. We are not ready to fight it. Like you bring it out, and there are people who are ready to fight you tooth and nail. That's the kind of leadership we are experiencing in Ghana. So for us, we should also push for the Peter Obis of Nigeria and make sure that we get them to leadership position, take a hard stance against corruption, punish people who get themselves involved in this, and make sure that we rid our country of it. When people don't get punished, others are emboldened to do worse than they have done. And so let's take a hard stand and make sure we do the right things.
In the meantime, since you mentioned the special prosecutor for about 17 months, he, together with some of his assistants at the office, have not been paid still, at least
you see, that's what I'm talking about. People are not being paid. So if somebody comes to offer them something, will drop my case. When they drop, they are human. They need to put body and soul together. I am not saying that they are also corrupt, but they are human.
Right.
And they are liable to temptation and to corruption. You see, so once people are being paid their salary over 17 months, what do you expect them to do? How do they do it?
Interesting questions. We'll leave the thought of that for another day, but this is where we'll have to draw the curtains on the conversation. It's been really good having you, Maxwell. Thank you for joining the conversation.
Thank you, Ben, for having me, and greetings to everybody, especially people of Southampton. Good morning.
Right. And that is the Volta Regional President, Ghana Institution of Surveyors, Maxwell Lukuto, who joined me there for that conversation. Just to wrap with some stories on the BBC right there. The U.S. has returned looted ancient green coffin to Egypt, jail for Senegal members of parliament who kicked pregnant colleague, and arrest over deadly Uganda New Year fireworks crush. All of those stories on BBC as far as Africa is concerned. On that note, we have to wrap here and settle for sports. Up next after the break. Do stay.